This is our town, this is my place. This is where my whole world is lived in. Nothing much, and just out of reach of all the city lights. It's a high town, it's a low town. It's a get here, come and you grow town. No one does, but everyone thinks they're gonna make it soon. This was one place I respected. Now I feel it's really dejected. No one cares, and the people just stare as the man on the bike says, "Hey, you don't walk away. Get my people but they will slow."
Hi. Well, if you're wondering what I'm doing in the ruins of the old cathedral, I'm actually preparing for a tour around the city centre. But as well as being a tour of historic Coventry, I also wanted to record for posterity some parts of the city that will be changed forever once the Millennium project, now known as the Phoenix Initiative, gets underway. We're starting off in the cathedral and more or less following the tour as described in the city centre trail guide. St Michael's, built in the 14th century, was the only English cathedral to be destroyed during the Second World War. Only its outside walls and spire, which is the third tallest in England, remain. The new cathedral was built adjacent to the old, and together they form the biggest tourist attraction in the city. It was designed by Sir Basil Spence and completed in 1962. Many of the finest artists of the period worked on its features, including Jacob Epstein, whose statue of St Michael defeating the devil was his last major work. In the graveyard in St Michael's Avenue is the tombstone of John Parkes the Invincible, one of Europe's greatest 18th century gladiators. The foundations belonging to the east end of the Benedictine Priory Church of St Mary were discovered whilst the new cathedral was under construction. The 11th century building was eventually dissolved by Henry VIII. These are the remains of the west end of the same church. This area is also the location of the original Bluecoat School. The school was built over the northwest tower of St Mary's Priory, and the remainder of the ruins were left exposed. Priory Row, which stands over the remains of the church after which it is named, includes properties that were built centuries apart. Holy Trinity Church dates from the early 13th and late 15th centuries, although the spire had to be rebuilt to replace one which had collapsed. The original Coventry cross stood in Cross Cheaping, and this smaller copy was erected in 1976. County Hall in Cuckoo Lane was the former courthouse and was built in 1784. The adjacent site was used as a jail, and attached to County Hall in Pepper Lane is the prison governor's house. The Golden Cross was built in the 16th or 17th century on the site of the Coventry Mint. It was restored in the 19th century. Hay Lane is a typical example of a medieval street in Coventry. And this part of Bailey Lane has hardly changed in appearance in the last 500 years. Through the gates of Castle Yard stands St Mary's Hall, which was built in the 14th and 15th centuries. It is one of the finest guild halls in the country. Elizabeth I is believed to have dined here, whilst Mary Queen of Scots is said to have been imprisoned here.